Hey y'all, it's Virginia Willis. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm going to share with you a recipe for a quick and easy crumble topping for you to keep in your freezer so that you can pull out at a moment's notice and have an absolutely delicious dessert. It couldn't be more simple. So in this bowl, I have some butter and I'm going to add some almonds. Now I like almonds because I'm specifically going to use this one with peaches. You could also use peanuts, pecans, walnuts, use your favorite nut. And here I also have some turbinado sugar. Now I like to use the turbinado sugar because it's rich and it has that molasses flavor, and I just love the way that it melts and tastes. So I'm just going to combine this all together, and if you wanted to, you could blitz it together really quickly in your Cuisinart. Now I'm specifically using almonds because I know that I'm going to be cooking a lot of Georgia peaches this summer. So I love the way that peaches and almonds taste together, okay? And you just want to mix it up just enough, and then what we'll do is put it in a jar, and let me add just a pinch of salt. I'm going to add just a pinch of salt because you need salt even in desserts. And so we mix this all together. Got those nice chunks of butter. And it is important to keep it in the freezer just because it might get too wet in the refrigerator. All right, and then I use jars all the time. So I'm going to add my crumble topping. And this is just a base. If you wanted to put a pinch of cinnamon, you could. I'm using all-purpose flour. You could obviously use gluten-free flour. I've started pulsing oats in my food processor and using oat flour as well. So that is it, and I've got just enough to share with you to make my tart. But this is it. So this is our crumble topping ready to go. So it'll take about a tablespoon per portion. So if you're making individuals, you just take a tablespoon of this ready to go crumble topping, sprinkle it on top of some fruit, and there you go. I'm going to show you how to use it with a peach tart. All right, so here I have a disc of my favorite pie crust. If your favorite pie crust comes in a box and you buy it at the store, hey, you do that. That's perfectly fine. They're great to have on hand. I'm gonna sprinkle my board with a little bit of flour, all right? And then I have a rolling pin, and I'm just gonna roll it out. Now, when you're rolling out pie crust, you wanna start in the center and roll back, and start in the center and roll forward and rotate. Center and back, center and forward. Now the most important thing is that you don't go off the edge, right? Because that will create an uneven disc. So we just keep rolling it out and rotating. Now we can go two ways. So I've got a tart tin, right? And we could do that. Or if you wanted to go a little bit more free form and just cut one out, if you don't have those fancy tart tins, you can do that, and we'll make like a crostata. So I'm gonna make the more simple version. I'm just gonna use a bowl and cut around. And then now I have a parchment lined sheet pan, right? And then what you can do is just sort of roll the edges up. It's just really, it doesn't have to be hard. Y'all, baking is definitely a science, but I feel like that people get super intimidated and they're scared to death and they want to follow a recipe exactly. And just know that you don't always have to follow it exactly. Like the alternatives that I'm giving you with the fats and the flours and in a tart tin or not in a tart tin, you're not gonna break the internet, right? So there you go. All right, so then now I have this, and then I have an absolutely beautiful, delicious Georgia peach. And so I'm going to slice through that. Now, a lot of people don't know, in the beginning of the season, peaches are what are called clingstone, which means the flesh clings to the stone. And a little bit later in the season, that's when you get a freestone peach. So early in the season, if you get a peach that's tight on the pit, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is not ripe. But this is, we are in freestone season. So I'm just gonna pop that out. And then I tell you what, I don't peel the peaches. I do not peel the peaches. Don't peel the peaches. So I'm just gonna slice this really thinly. And then we'll start lining it up on our tart, and not too big, right? Because you want them to cook sort of at the same rate of speed. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's another thing, and that's one thing that, you know, you have to be realistic about, you know, you're not a French trained pastry chef, or it's been a long time since I worked in a French kitchen. So, you know, let's just be nice to yourself, because this is gonna be so delicious. Your family's gonna love it one way or the other. All right, so pie crust, peaches, topping. And then now in this container, turbinado sugar, butter and flour, and a little bit of salt. And then I am just simply going to take a heaping tablespoon and sprinkle it over. And then that's it. That's literally the dessert. Yum, look at these. Aren't these amazing? So our little peach tarts, they'll take about a half an hour in a 400-degree oven. It'll depend on the dough, it'll depend on the pie crust that you use, but this couldn't be more simple. This is simply a disc of pie crust, and I've topped it with delicious and beautiful Sweet Georgia peaches, and then a tablespoon of my almond crumble topping that I always keep in the freezer this time of year. Other fruits, if you wanted to use it, blackberries, blueberries, nectarines, apricots. And if you didn't want to bake it on top of a pie crust, just take your fruit, taste it, see how sweet it is, maybe add a little bit of sugar, a splash of vanilla, put it in a ramekin, and then sprinkle this with like a tablespoon of crumble topping. You're going to love this idea. You're going to love this peach tart. It's delicious plain or topped with a scoop of ice cream. Thank you so much for watching. For more tips, techniques, and recipes, please visit virginiawillis.com. Bon appetit, y'all.